Well, hello, friends. Welcome to That's the Tea Book Reviews. I'm your co-host, Angela.
And I'm Emily. Welcome.
Emily, what book are we talking about today?
We are talking about Newfangled Madness by EM Chaffin, which I believe is a book that I recommended. Um,
Yes.
and EM Chaffin is one of my Instagram authors, friends that I met on Instagram. And so
Well, she's very good. She's very good.
she
Did
is
she
very
happen
good.
to tell you anything about her background? Like, does she have a degree in writing or
I
anything?
think she has a degree in writing. You could probably go find her through my account on Instagram. She comments on my posts a lot. And
What's her Instagram name? Do you
I
know?
think it's EM Chaffin Writes.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Um, we found each other in some comments because she named her dogs after some book character dogs in a series called All Creatures Great and Small. I don't know if you've ever read that series, but
Mm-mm.
one of her dogs is named after a dog in that book series, and I was like, I know where that name comes from, and so that was like instant bonding for us on there. And she also makes like murder mystery games that you can
Oh,
play. Like her company is Bearded Rat Mysteries, and she writes
okay.
interactive games that you play.
Well, there you go.
Which
We
I
will
really
find.
like want to play one of them, but I there's like you need a certain amount of players, and I don't have enough
Ah,
people here that I could round up to play one of the
yes.
games.
We should note that Emily and I live in two different states.
Oh yes, we should.
Although we are best friends, we are getting together virtually for you guys. But so this is what she means. Otherwise, I would totally go to Emily's house and play with her.
Yes, Angela would totally be invited for these game nights.
We will try to find, or if you could find EM Chapman's website, and we'll put it in the description of the
Yes,
video. So if anyone
absolutely.
would like to check her out, you totally should.
Yeah, this is
The,
her second book. She has her debut novel was a book called Dead Man's Swamp.
okay,
So
all right. So before we get into it, Emily, what kind of tea are you drinking today?
I am branching out, as we just discussed earlier, from my daily Tetley, and I am drinking Morning Thunder by Celestial
Morning
Seasonings.
Thunder. Oh, I have tried that. It's very strong.
It is really strong. I need
It
caffeine.
if you need to wake up, and I know you're going to work later after
Yes.
this in the evening, yes, it will keep you awake.
Yes.
Maybe not as strong as coffee, but for
Good
tea, it's
stuff.
pretty strong.
Good stuff. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's good
drinking it
stuff.
out of my Bucky's mug for
Bucky's,
Texas
for
Bucky's.
anyone who does not know, Google Bucky's. It is a gas station and more in Texas. If you ever drive through Texas, please stop at Bucky's. You will not be disappointed.
No, you won't.
Just look for the beaver. You will probably see their road signs starting 200 miles out, letting you know that you are approaching Bucky's.
Yes.
Yes.
All the beef
I
jerky you didn't know you needed.
all the quote unquote beaver nuggets that I promise you are not made from beavers.
No. They're good. They're so disgusting, but they're so addictive.
And very clean bathrooms.
And really clean bathrooms.
Great for road trips.
Wait, you watch the billboards as you're driving down the highways.
Yes,
Angela,
please
what
do it.
tea are you drinking today?
I am drinking an herbal tea called Love. And on
Love.
the back, it says a heartwarming touch of rose, chamomile, and lavender. It's actually one of my favorites. It's very
Oh,
nice.
that sounds really good.
It is very nice.
My
And
mom
I,
once had this rose tea that was like, it tasted like a black tea, but the steam smelled like roses. So it was like
mm,
aromatherapy while you drink it.
I actually love rose tea. It's just
It's good.
really good. And my mug is white and it says, I work hard so my cat can have a better life. And
Well,
that is
not
true.
just the one cat either. All
I know.
four
It
of
should
them.
say my cats, plural,
Yes.
and that would be more accurate. But yes, as we have discussed in our intro, there are cats here.
Yes.
They are usually in the room with me as we speak,
Making mischief.
making mischief. So speaking of mischief, this book is replete with it.
Oh, yes.
One thing right off the bat, you open the title page and the dedication page,
I love
and
that dedication.
and it says, "For all the wonderful weirdos who make the world go round, except for you, Joshua Adariel, you know what you did." And that right there gets you a very good idea of what you are in for
Yes.
in this, the tone that you are in for in this book.
And I feel like I really want the story behind this, but maybe it's just something between Her and Josh, that is an inside joke there.
It's an inside joke, but it's still funny
Yes.
because who puts that in their author's note?
Yes.
Someone like this.
Yes.
So that is exactly what the rest of the book is pretty much like. You're in for quirkiness in every aspect of this story, but especially the characters. They are all so unique.
I love the characters.
You know what we should do probably first is read the copy on the back.
Yes.
The summary. So this is what it says for any of y'all who have not read this book yet. It says 14-year-old Marion Morrissey has an overactive imagination. That's why when she sees a body of a dead woman reflected in her bedroom mirror, no one thinks much about it. It's just a trick of the light until that same woman washes ashore after a hurricane and things get real and real fast. First, Marion finds a ring on the waterfront. Second, she tries it on, and she can talk to birds. The police say the woman on the shore took her own life, but the birds say she was murdered. Now Marion must solve the murder to prove her sanity, because either she can talk to birds and the woman was murdered, or she's crazy. And Marion isn't crazy.
I love how she has a review from her dog on the back of the cover.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was genuinely her dog.
Yeah, I think it is. Delightfully quirky from start to finish by Paisley the dog.
Says Paisley the dog. Oh, yes, I laughed very many times reading this book, which is unique since it's a murder mystery. But it is a very, very fun murder mystery. It is safe for kids to read, I would say, about middle school and up. So if any of y'all are parents out there.
Yeah, EM Chaffin, she is a Christian and she was homeschooled. Obviously, if you've read the book, you can see all the hints at homeschool culture, which is fun for me to read as somebody who gets a lot of the homeschool references and the jokes about the frustrations of people wondering about if you're going to turn out normal or, are you learning anything? Yeah. I got that a lot as a teenager. So I totally get her taking her frustrations out on a fictional audience in here.
Right. I was not homeschooled, but I went to college with a lot of homeschooled people who had been homeschooled.
Yeah.
So I definitely learned a lot and saw how obviously normal these people are.
Yes.
And what a good education they had and everything.
Yeah.
But yes, so all the characters are quirky, including the main character. Of course, the opening line of chapter 1 is, "I wore green the day I saw a dead body on my bed," because Marion has these ideas about each color means different things, and she makes her own tunics to wear for different colors for different situations. So I'm pretty sure she said green is like the color of trials. And,
I guess, and in green, there's some science actually to the way that colors make you feel.
Oh, absolutely. But she's making these up.
Yeah, green is, I guess her perspective on that is that green is a calming color. So she wears it when she's faced with trials because it'll calm her down.
Maybe. Maybe that's why. Because even her grandma said, "Why are you wearing green, Marion?" I always wear green when I'm faced with trials.
Yeah.
So she has, different color for every situation, basically. I love that she and her best friend, who's a whole other character, and by character I mean silly, oh, she's a character, They live in what, South Carolina, North Carolina? Can't remember.
I think it's supposed to be North Carolina.
I think it's North Carolina. And they live near the ocean on the waterfront. And she and her friend like to put on capes and go patrolling on the waterfront. Like
every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night. This is just the thing that they do. They just put on their capes and sneak out and like walk around and look for mythical creatures. Because, why not?
Yeah, why not? I think my favorite character in here besides Marion is her best friend, Delia.
Delia is a hoot. I think Delia first comes in on page 14. Okay. That's where she first appears.
Well, just the sentence introducing her. Or was the sentence about her name? Because that's not her actual name.
Oh, no, her real name is like Cordelia Rose Fortescue.
Yeah.
Her mom named her Cordelia Rose Fortescue because she wanted her to be a Victorian socialite with a penchant for tea and crumpets. But Delia wanted to be a sea fairy, so we call her Delia.
Yes, I love that one. That was such a fun quote.
Yeah.
And the way that she's always like every single description of the t-shirt that she's wearing, and it has to do with some mythical creature like mermaids or Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or fairies.
Mm-hmm.
And I
It's the
love
first time.
the like her first time she's there. She wore a gray T-shirt that read "Save Nessie" in big bold letters in front of a shadowy Loch Ness monster.
And then later she says one that's Kraken just needs a hug around a
Yes.
Kraken rising above a churning ocean, crushing a ship with its tentacles because it's hugging the ship.
Yeah.
Oh my, yes. And then I love later when they're in the attic and there's like a bear pelt, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's him. It's Bigfoot."
Yes. Yes.
Like, no, no, it's not.
But I love how like part of their relationship, one of the things that they do is go out to all these sightings, like because Delia tracks
Yeah,
sightings of all these creatures, and so they have to go out and investigate every single
right.
spot and every single sighting.
It's like a fairy or a gnome or something sighting. You have
Yeah.
to go check it out.
Yeah. The characters are really what made the book for me.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think otherwise it would not have been nearly as interesting.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting how the house that Marion lives in is kind of its own character, but only in
Yes.
Marion's mind. So there's a whole history of the house and everything, but it's called Finnegan's Galley, but she calls it Finny. And she talks about like how the house hugs her or like winks at her with its shutters and
Yeah.
something. And um, so like for example, the first time we see her step in the house, she says, "The moment I stepped through the door, roots grew from my feet, through the floorboards, and into the earth. My house was the fortress that stood between me and the ocean, the wild, unpredictable thing that devours and conceals. It was solid, it knew me, and it knew me so well. It was like my name was written on the walls. It grounded me, kept me solid, anchored me in reality." So she's talking about, metaphorical things like roots growing from her feet into the
Yeah.
floorboards, which of course is not actually happening, but that's what she feels every time she's in her house.
Well, and one thing I love about it is the magical realism
Yeah, it really
that
is.
kind of keeps you guessing throughout the whole book. And parts of it is this actually happening, or is this all of her in her mind? And it keeps you questioning the whole time. Okay, if that's happening, are these other things actually real? And then at the very end, it's just like a wow moment of how seamlessly she weaves these magical realism aspects in. So I think I like to think of the idea because she talks about like nobody's ever seen a ghost at the house, because it's a really old house and nobody's ever seen a ghost and it's not haunted, but the house itself kind of has that history and it has almost a personality. So I like to think of the
Hmm.
aspect of the house as kind of alive in a way.
Yeah,
But again,
yeah.
it's in
Uh,
Marion's head.
yeah, to Marion it is. But that is a good way to put it. This is a magical realism murder mystery
Yeah.
that is suitable for younger audiences and doesn't have like bad words or too much blood or anything like that. So it's very unique in that way, I think.
Yeah. It's very clean,
Hmm.
which is great. You have the characters, they get into some situations and they do some dumb things
Yeah.
because they're teenagers.
Well, they
But
have a lot more
it's never like
freedom.
an unclean thing necessarily. It's just a stupid
No,
thing. Like,
they're
why
just
would you
stupid.
be doing this?
They just go do stupid things. Yeah, because they're like 14 years old. But and they have a lot more freedom than I did when I was 14 years old, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah.
They just like go out and do things
Well,
that
and
you
there's
don't
with
even
the
tell your
thing is
parents.
with mystery novels of this sort where it's like a young adult mystery or a middle grade mystery, there always has to be some suspension of disbelief
Yeah.
of how come, teenagers and kids are figuring out stuff that the adults cannot.
Right.
Or how
How
they
come
wind
the
up at an illegal speakeasy at their name and manage to get inside.
Right. Yeah. I really had to suspend belief at that part. I was like, they don't look 18. Come on.
But it's all part of how they solve the mystery, and they have to experience those things in order to get there. So again, with any YA or middle grade mystery
Fiction. Yeah.
fiction, there's always some suspension of disbelief, and you just have to accept that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
When I was younger, if I had read this when I was younger, I don't think I would have noticed, honestly.
oh yeah,
So,
yeah, it's easier when you're younger to see other kids doing that. When you become an adult, you're like, what mom in the right mind?
yeah. And also, in the story, she mentions that it's the year 2005. So this is before smartphones,
Oh yeah.
before most kids had cell phones. So, and or smartwatches that their parents were tracking them everywhere or whatever. So there's that aspect too.
Yeah. And again, it's just supposed to be a smaller town, so
Yeah, well,
yeah, I would say the mystery itself wasn't too terribly memorable. It had some intriguing moments, but the mystery itself was almost more of a setting for these characters because it's very
yeah,
character driven.
yeah, it is character driven, and it had to be something that 14-year-olds could solve.
Yeah, but and the thing is, the characters are so much fun that I could almost care less what the plot was because
It's true.
I just follow an everyday story about the characters.
Right. It doesn't really even matter that much. It's like, okay. And another thing, aside from the characterization that makes this novel so well written, is what I would call her prose.
Yeah.
She uses lots of details, lots of beautiful language that's still not too hard to understand. It's, to me, like a mixture of literature and modern fiction, modern YA fiction,
Yeah.
but still kind of has that feel of like beautiful
Almost a
literature.
classical style of the actual writing itself.
Yeah. And I looked, I could not find the passage, but there was one where they're walking along the waterfront and she talked about how the waves kissed Delia's feet, but they pulled at her feet. Like just the way she used the different, and throughout the novel, as you'll find out why at the end, but she's always talking about how the water seems to be like calling her, like in a way that she doesn't like. Not in like a, I need to be on the sea, but like, no, I don't like this. Like it's always pulling at her. But she does tend to personify things.
Yes,
like the
she
character
very much
does.
personifies everything around her, from buildings to nature, everything. I loved the characterizations of the birds again. As
Oh my
she
gosh,
can
the birds are
talk
so
to the
funny.
birds, and then it's like, okay, how would a bird talk? What is bird culture like? How would they speak to a human if a human suddenly started talking to them?
Yeah, how all the birds have like really normal names, like Sally and whatever, and they're just talking about the first birds she talks to are seagulls, and they're just talking about, oh, this other seagull flew off with another bird that had prettier feathers than me,
Yes.
and I gave him the best years of my life.
Yes.
And everything. And she's like, I didn't know seagulls cared about these things.
Now, again, it's been a couple of months since I read this one, so I can't remember a whole bunch of like quotes and stuff like that. But the passage on page 7, and it's one of the strong elements of Marion, the main character. I cannot abide half truths. Mm-hmm. Feed me lies or feed me the truth, but don't smush them all together, all willy-nilly, and expect me to roll my eyes and sigh. And it just like, that's, it's a moral stance that this character takes, something she feels really strongly about, and then throughout the mystery, and through the course of the book, you see her struggle with this, of holding to this whole idea of hating half truths, but also, I want to say in a way she starts becoming corrupted on that, and like telling half truths to her parents, and stuff like that.
Well, eventually she does, yeah.
Eventually she becomes corrupted on that, but then she, again, that there's like a turning point where she recognizes all that. So
yeah. So I guess the only part that was a dislike for me was that it was a little long. I mean, for a YA novel, it's 400 and how many pages here? 430 some odd pages. Which, yeah, it's kind of long. So it did drag a little bit. I do love the characters interacting, but there were some times when they were really just hanging out and not a lot of plot stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And we do want some of that for sure, but I thought there might have been just a little too much, like especially during the hurricane. She spent 2 or 3 chapters talking about them playing games during the hurricane.
Okay, but I now want to have a hurricane party. This is something that we need to adopt as...
I mean, I'm not saying take it out.
I know.
But she could have condensed it.
She could have condensed it. But after reading that part, and like I was like, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Turn a hurricane into like a game night, a party night, and like have a sleepover. And I'm all for this now. Like if we're all going to be trapped in our houses during a hurricane, be trapped together.
Yeah.
And make stupid dares, like, right around the house in your tutu 7 times.
Well, if you're 14, sure.
Yeah, well, the 14-year-old guy that loves to bet because he can't stop making bets.
He can't stop making bets. He has a gambling problem.
I love that. And that's like half of the trouble that they get into is because of his gambling problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, overall, it was a really, really fun read. And
Yes.
I keep bugging her for book 2, but she's been working on some other projects, so I don't know where she's at with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elizabeth, if you're listening.
So definitely recommend Newfangled Madness by EM Chaffin if you like YA mysteries or magical realism or just really, really funny, quirky characters that will keep you entertained. Give it a read.
Yes, it was definitely a fun book. And just the characters, the quirkiness of the characters. Like, these are people that I would want to hang out with because you can be weird and be your normal self without feeling like they're judging you because everybody's weird and they embrace each other's weirdness.
Yeah. And I had a friend group like that in high school. We were all kind of weird. We were into, fantasy and anime and stuff, and we just kind of did our own thing. And I totally would have worn a cape around if I hadn't been too socially awkward.
Yeah. I love that the author, Elizabeth Chaffin, does wear a cape in real life.
Does she?
And she'll wear it around her hometown.
I mean, I have some. They're for the Renaissance Festival costumes, but I have them. They're in my
need to
closet.
adopt them as standard, appropriate dress wear.
I mean, there was a time at the very end of senior year in high school when I didn't care anymore about what was happening. We had our senior project was to do like a scene from Hamlet. So I brought a couple capes for me and some of the other kids to wear for the scene. And at the end of school, I just put it on and I just walked out of school because I was like, I'm graduating in a week anyway. Who cares?
Nobody cares.
So, nobody cares.
Yeah. But it's like ponchos. A socially acceptable way to wear a blanket. And in some cases considered formal dress wear.
Yeah. In some places in the world.
Yeah. A cape is just a whole new way of wearing that blanket. If I can wear a poncho, why can't I wear a blanket?
And you can feel so cool when the wind blows it back and it billows behind you.
And
it's
imagine
like,
that you're going on some epic quest.
And you hear like epic music swell in your head.
Of course. Always.
Always. I hope y'all know what we're talking about out there. Anyways, that is our review for Newfangled Madness. So until next time, read books and drink tea.